Hello, and welcome to SQL in the City Streamed. I am Kendra Little from Redgate Software, and I'm excited to kick off this day of free online training and discussion. We are talking today about the theme of standardizing change management. And so the topic that I'm going to start off with is talking about why database administrators and developers must redefine what we mean when we talk about change management. Now, like I said, my name is Kendra Little. I am on the evangelist team at Redgate, and it's been really, really exciting. I've been at Redgate about 7 months now, and digging into the world of database DevOps and the technologies and the processes that we need to do to rapidly deliver changes that not only don't take our environment down, but keep the environment stable while adding in new features. Learning how it is that people in the real world are making this happen has been incredibly interesting for me to see. But one of the really interesting things that I've noticed over this time period is that change management, the definition of this is really shifting, and it must shift for us. But the term change management has always meant different things to different people. If you talk to database administrators about what change management means, a lot of us who've worked as database administrators over the years, we think of IT infrastructure libraries, or ITIL. This is kind of a scientific approach to the change management process, where we think about how do we really focus on process so that right before a change goes to production, we look at what are the reasons the change is being done? Like, why is the change happening? What is the change itself? What are the worst things that could happen? And what are our plans if something goes wrong? So when I think of change management as a DBA, I think of we need to evaluate these things right before it goes to production. But change management has a different meaning if you talk to developers about what change management means, because to developers, change management for a long time has, yes, it's some sort of processes that seem to go on without us. But it hits us in the software development lifecycle after we have designed the change and tested the change and gotten user acceptance on the change, and everything is code complete. And only then is this evaluation done of, is the risk of this change acceptable? So we've done all of this work, everything's ready to go, and then we're like, slow down, slow down, slow down, stop. Now we've got to go through all of these questions. And a lot of times, historically, developers don't even get to go to the meeting where these things are discussed. A lot of change approval boards, or CABs, are attended by IT people and by managers, and they're evaluating whether or not this change should proceed after it's been completed, and without a lot of the people who worked on the change through, talking about why did we do it this way, what were the alternatives. So it's really a big speed bump to get over. It's a roadblock to developers that can limit how quickly changes make it through. I mean, I've had, in my history of working in IT, I've had some changes get kicked back and say, oh no, you need to start over from the beginning and redesign this before you ever go to production. I've seen some changes get delayed and, oh no, we'll see if we'll approve that next week. Oh no, next week, next week, next week, so that by the time the change goes to production, the developers have been working on lots of things since then, and it's just not even as fresh in their mind. Now, change management, this I think is the most interesting thing. If you mention this term to business users and to managers these days and to leadership, they may think of something that you aren't thinking of at all when it comes to the term change management. And I learned this recently when I was on a retreat with some friends, and I was making some new friends, and I was speaking with someone who is a consultant. And I asked her what she worked on with tech companies when she went in. And she said, I work on them with change management. I said, oh, do you mean that IT infrastructure libraries? Are you talking about change approval boards? And she said, no, oh, that's not it at all. Change management is the science of organizational change. It's figuring out how do we actually influence people in our organization? So if I want to do a new project, maybe it's implementing DevOps, maybe it's doing something else. If I am launching a new project, how can I effectively get others in my organization, some of which may be in my direct team, some of which I may not work with directly, how can I identify who are the important people who I need to get on board with this project? Who are the people who I need to influence, and how do I actually get that done? How do I make change in my organization happen? And that is the change management that we need to shift to. I'm not saying that we need to abandon process. I'm not saying that we shouldn't ask any of these questions. We absolutely should be asking questions like, why are we making this change? What are the risks associated with it? What are we going to do if something goes wrong? We should be asking those questions, but we need to be asking those questions at different times in the software development lifecycle. It's just not efficient to let all of this work happen and then evaluate, is it worth doing this? We need to be more effective at making use of our resources and not redoing work or delaying work if it could go forward more quickly. And a big part of making this change in our organization is learning how it is that we can launch projects successfully and what is the best thing for the organization in a given case. There's a lot of change happening across all industries. Industries from pizza delivery to manufacturing tractors to, of course, businesses that sell things online, businesses that make cars. Across all industries, automation is dramatically changing the way that we provide services, the way that we write software, and the software is used in so many things. What's happening is that not only startups, but larger companies can now innovate much more quickly. And that means that other companies who aren't innovating as fast are losing customers. And they're waking up, and their leadership is saying, we need to be able to deliver changes to our customers more quickly without disruption. We need to be able to experiment and come up with new ideas and test them out with our customers. We need to figure out what will delight our customers rather than just providing things more slowly. What this means is not always doubling the amount of engineers we have, because there's also a difficulty in hiring right now. There's a lot of competition for hiring. It is very, very difficult to hire staff. And what we want is to stop wasting time. We don't want to do all these changes, send them back to the beginning. We don't want to rush things through unnecessarily either. It's not that we want to do unsafe changes, right? Because we don't want data breaches. We don't want data loss. We don't want downtime. We need to figure out how to more efficiently ship changes in a repeatable fashion using repeatable processes and tools that are standard across our organization, but allow us to make smaller iterations of changes more quickly and to listen to our customers so that if we start moving along in a given direction, we're making a series of changes. If we start finding out, hey, we've started going along this path, why are our customers not using this? We are now able to change direction more quickly. There's a survey from September 2018 that Stripe, the payment company Stripe, they had Harris Poll do a survey for them. And they asked executives everywhere, they asked them, what are the top 3 areas that your company plans to increase investment in the next 5 years? And the top 3 areas that they found are software, infrastructure, and technology, right? We plan to invest in technology. We plan to invest in R&D, and we plan to invest in recruiting talent. We need to heavily invest in software even more than we need to invest in sales and marketing. We need to invest in our capabilities. And when they asked these folks to look forward and see what skills will people need in 10 years, compared to now, how much of a core competency is software development going to be in 10 years? The folks who responded to this survey, this includes C-level executives as well as developers, said 81% of them said that software development is going to be even more of a requirement than it is now. So what does this mean to database administrators? This is an interesting thing when it comes to being a DBA, because the role of the production DBA really is changing. And the increasing importance of software development, this doesn't mean you need to go out and learn a ton of languages. This does mean that for production DBAs, they need to look more at how can I be part of the software development lifecycle. So in other words, instead of just being part of a change approval board at the end of a change, how do I actually create risk checklists that can be used as changes are developed to make sure, hey, are we evaluating these risks as we go through? How can we make sure this happens earlier in the process? How can we come up with the best ways to automate our changes and to make sure that non-production environments get in a safe, reliable, and automated way the data they need from production without dangerous data in those data sets, right? So this doesn't mean the production DBA is becoming a C developer. It does mean they're starting to participate in the software development lifecycle more. Development DBAs, they are more hands-on code reviewing. How are we going to make sure this performs as we need to? What are the patterns for keeping our systems online as we're releasing changes? And what's the best strategy for getting our code into version control, for branching it, for practices for developing database code, which has different needs than developing application code? So change management is shifting from being, we will follow this process, to we are continuously improving our processes. And we are designing them in a way that we get the stability we need, but we are putting checks in throughout the software development lifecycle so that we are mitigating risk as early as we can and making sure that by the time a change is ready to release, it's just ready to go, and we don't have to make this big bang decision at the end that can go terribly wrong. When you're shifting your focus towards this new world, our old focus was this change must follow this process. And the truth is that's not that interesting a world to live in. I've lived there, right? It's a frustrating world. The question now is really, when we're looking at things, we're always stepping back and thinking about, okay, this is a little different, but what is the best way to do this for the organization? And how can I influence others to try to improve this? We are not going to be able to redefine every process overnight. We're going to try to influence things, and it's not always going to work. But we need to always keep seeking opportunities to improve and brainstorming different ways that we can adjust this cycle so that we can evaluate risks sooner, so that we can find ways to deploy changes in our organization so that if something goes wrong, it's easier to undo it with less impact on the customer. Things like using feature flags in our applications and designing changes in stages so that we're doing it bit by bit instead of one big bang release. If you want to learn more about change management as business leaders think of it, there's a fantastic set of resources online at the URL you see on the screen here, the prosky.com resources site. There's an article called 5 Levers of Organizational Change Management. And you can dig into free resources they've got about when you're planning a big change, who should send what types of messages? Who should you enlist to help you with this? And what is an executive sponsor? What would it mean to get one for your project? What would you ask them to do, and what role would they play? Things about coaching, about changing, and about managing resistance to projects. So incredibly helpful resources on this new meaning of change management. We're going to be talking a lot more about how to influence organizational change and how to launch a database DevOps project at our SQL in the City Summits in person. These events are going to be in London, in Los Angeles, in Brisbane, in Melbourne, in Austin, and in New Zealand. And I'm going to get to be at a few of these events. I hope that you'll join us. You can register today for these in-person events. You can get a complimentary ticket to attend using the code webinar. Hit us up at redgate.com/SQL in the City Summit, and you'll find the registration and the dates for those events, which is also on the screen here. So what we've got next is we've got Steve Jones from the Evangelist team at Redgate, and Steve is going to be talking about getting team collaboration. I'm really excited to see this talk. I think it's going to be terrific. And I am going to let Steve take it away now. He's right here. Come on, Steve. Come on, Steve. Steve is up next. See you soon.